Hello and welcome back to VHS Era. Today I'm joined by Michael Trey, who is a dancer, and he is also a huge fan of today's topic. A topic that I don't think is going to need like any introduction. I mean, it was huge across the 90s. I remember even little me getting swept up in Pokey Fever. But today we are going to talk about the only Pokemon anime movie. I have seen Detective Pikachu, but the only anime Pokemon movie I've seen both in theaters and in general, Pokemon the first movie. Well, of course, as you know from this show, we're looking at the VHS opening. You know what I mean. But anyway, thank you again for joining us, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about Pokemon. I still am very up to date with everything within trading card game and the video games. I'm a huge Poke nerd, so anytime I get to talk about this side of my passions, I love it. So thank you for having me.
Of course. So, were you around when Fever first hit?
Yes, I was. I remember. So I'm born in 96, so I was around when the first movie came out, when the trading card game began. Um, I got Red and Blue on my Game Boy Color back when I was a kid, and I sat through countless hours of playing those games. So I was very, very involved in Pokemon from a young age.
Yeah, and yeah, I remember around that era too, collecting the trading cards, of course, playing the games on Game Boy, watching the anime, and, like I said, I did see Pokemon the first movie when it hit theaters.
Mhm.
Now I'm slightly older than you, by a few years. So I'm kind of curious because you would have been three. Was this your first movie ever in theaters?
Ooh, if I'm being quite honest, I don't remember if it was my first movie ever in theaters. I do remember watching it in the theaters. But I also have this movie on VHS, and it is one of my prized possessions. So it's a constant rewatch for me. But I don't quite remember if it was my first movie that I've ever watched in theaters.
All right. Well, seeing as you said you got the VHS as well, like how many times did you watch it on VHS?
Oh, multiple times as a kid, I've lost count. Even as an adult too, like if my VHS player still works when I go visit my parents, I'll pop the thing in to kill some time, rewind it, and then rewatch it. It is one of my favorite movies of all time, I will say.
Yeah. So now, seeing as today we're going to be looking at the previews of
Mhm.
Pokemon the first movie, did you sit through the previews or did you always just fast forward to the movie?
No, always sat through the previews. I mean, when I was younger, you had to stand up to fast forward on the VHS, and I never wanted to stand up once I sat down with my snacks. So I always sat through the trailers at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I remember having to fast forward through the VHS as well, but let's take another trip then down memory lane
Let's do it.
as we look at the previews for Pokemon, the first movie.
The countdown's begun. Whoa! Bring in the new century with an incredible collection of Warner Brothers Century 2000 videos. Take off with all your favorite characters in the wackiest, wildest, hairiest, Yogi! Berriest, doggone scariest, Tom and Jerryest movies ever. Bring home Free Willy, Free Willy 2, The Adventure Home, and Free Willy 3, The Rescue, The Amazing Panda Adventure, Wild America, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers, Batman Sub-Zero. Bingo. Tom and Jerry's Greatest Chases.
Whoa!
Yogi the Easter Bear. The Flintstones Stone Age Adventures. And more.
Hurry!
Don't miss out on this collection of unforgettable family videos. You'll flip at the incredible low prices. Bring home the magic, the mystery, the thrills, and the laughter. Plus, cash in on over $250 in savings inside every video.
Yeah!
And when you buy any 3 Century 2000 videos, get one free. Bring home all the videos in the Century 2000 collection today. From Warner Brothers Family Entertainment.
We like it! We like it!
So I remember like how hyped the year 2000 was. Like, it was like, are we even going to make it to the year 2000? There was that Y2K thing, and like there were so many like, things like marketed as the blank 2000. And that's kind of what this ad feels like. It's like, hey kids, these things, don't worry. They're not going to be seen as old once we leave the 90s or the 1900s. These are still cool. These are still hip. These are still relevant. Uh, Admittedly, though, I do kind of wonder. I can't help but just picture a little kid would just be watching that and being like, I don't care about Yogi Bear right now. I want to see Pokemon. I don't care about the Flintstones. Where's Pikachu?
Right.
Yeah, what was your thoughts when that preview aired?
Ooh, I mean, first off, that was a major blast from the past. Remembering, hearing that script over and over again, that was really cool. That was really cool. Um, if I'm being honest, what I remember most about that trailer is being absolutely terrified of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. I had a huge fear of zombies as a kid. And I would always just like at that part, even though it was like 3 seconds, I was always scared. Um, but I watched a couple of those movies too. I mean, I loved watching cartoons. So the Tom and Jerry, Flintstones, um, all that. I never really got into the live action movies, like the Free Willies and all that. But I really enjoyed Batman. I didn't get too deep into it, but I remember watching Batman Sub-Zero as well. And Animaniacs is still one of my favorite cartoons now, as I've gotten older. But yeah, I think I was just so excited to get to watching, you know, Pikachu in action and the journeys of Ash and Misty and Brock. Because as a kid, growing up on the anime, that's all you really wanted to watch. And when the first movie came out, it was like, oh my God, this is it. Like this is gonna be one of the coolest movies ever. And you get the introduction to Mewtwo and Mew, which were never seen in the anime before. So I think the initial excitement and adrenaline rush kind of made me, bypass the trailers a little bit when I was younger.
Yeah, and I will say, because you mentioned Tom and Jerry earlier, like in that ad, like they were going with the messiest, the goriest, the scariest, the craziest, and then they were saying the Tom and Jerryest.
Gone scariest. Tom and Jerryest movie.
So I'm like, that's a forced pun, guys.
I mean, it, thinking back at it, it was 2000, so trying to be witty and punny wasn't necessarily the most upfront thing in advertising back then, but I mean, it worked. It was
Yeah.
catchy.
Well, let's get on to the next trailer.
Mary Kate and Ashley are Sam and Emma Stanton. They're twin sisters, but they couldn't be more different. When it comes to sports, Sam breaks records. Emma breaks her nail.
I am so sorry.
When their dad's soccer team goes co-ed, guess who's his first round pick?
The Hurricanes choose
Guess again.
Emma Stamp.
Let's face it, I stink.
Time out.
I bet we could still pull off the Great Sister swap.
You guys want to trade places?
It's going to take some fancy footwork to keep their switch a secret. It's comedy with a kick.
Look! YouTube grass stains.
Mary-Kate and Ashley's all-new movie, Switch and Go. Coming soon on video.
Perfect. Yes.
Honestly, the what catches me about that trailer is that the announcer is trying really hard to sound energetic and excited, and
Mhm.
there's wacky music, but there's not like enough clips they put in to like match that energy.
When their dad's soccer team goes co-ed, guess who's his first-round pick?
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, and there's also not enough jokes to match that energy. It's just kind of him describing the plot of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I truthfully never watched that movie. But I think in agreement with you, it wasn't as forward in terms of like matching energy to clips. Um, minus the soccer post goal where kick off the back of the head and into the net, and then the oh my God, you stink jersey swap. Um, yeah, not much comedy to it. I wish I could speak a little bit more about, the movie, but I mean, again, for the time it was, and Mary-Kate and Ashley were huge stars, as kids growing up. They were like Cole and Dylan Sprouse before Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. So they were the twins. Um, I think nonetheless they did a great job of like pushing it forward and taking something a little bit niche and making it popular for a movie.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I've seen any of the Mary Kay and Ashley movies. Like either it's just they're like the Land Before Time sequels of like live action where it's like
Mm,
for a while they were making them every single year, but
yeah.
you never really knew anyone who watched them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh
It was a forced push for the sequels. I agree with that.
yeah, the only thing I do know about that movie is, and actually I saw him in the trailer for a second. A young Michael Cera is in that movie. If there's anything I know about Mary Kate and Ashley lore, it's that Michael Cera was in one of their movies and Megan Fox was in another when they were
Ah,
kids.
interesting. Now you know.
But that's about it.
Yeah, that's more than me.
You're 9 years old. You're watching TV.
Darn, a perfectly good brain wasted.
When all of a sudden,
Stupid antenna.
you go to investigate. Your conclusion?
Invaders from Mars.
You do what any kid would do. You go looking for trouble. And sure enough, it finds you. Iron Giant. Now available on video cassette and DVD.
Okay, second time we've seen Iron Giant on the show. I think this was a new trailer, and honestly, way better than the previous trailer. Yeah, I like how it does kind of maximize, like it sells the movie by sort of maximizing the fears a kid would have when they like would hear a strange noise. It matches the aesthetics and setting of the movie by like kind of making it look like it is going to be this like big alien disaster movie when when you finally watch the movie, that's not entirely what it is, but like that's what they build it up as
Mhm.
anyway. So it still works. And the only thing I guess I would say is like to match those aesthetics, I noticed they try to do a lot of running scenes to make the movie look more action packed than it was.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not 100% sure that works, but much more effective trailer than the previous one overall.
Yeah, I mean, I love The Iron Giant as a movie, and that trailer kind of lives rent free in my brain. I was mouthing the words along with it too, but I think what I really liked about that trailer, watching it back, is, touching on your point of saying, a lot of running and a lot of action scenes. The 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 dialogue in it was very suspenseful, and it had such a great buildup, and then once the music kicked in, it began to grow with um the scenes that they were using, and then the final crescendo at the end of like those boom boom, to me that made it so much more enticing, and especially as like a younger a younger kid at the time, like that stuff is the audio, and then seeing the running scenes and seeing how action packed it is, it what gets you um excited to watch a movie like that. So I think that trailer was phenomenal in terms of build up into the anticipation of watching the movie. And while yes, the story is a lot sadder than action packed, I think as a trailer, it does such a great job of like catching you and drawing you in right away.
Coming this fall, you will notice an eerie greenish glow. Your heart will beat faster. Your palms start to sweat. Suddenly, you know they are among us. It's the all-new movie, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, coming fall 2000. It's just the beginning.
Okay, again, another effective trailer. I like how it kind of uses these faux X-File aesthetics to show that, hey kids, this Scooby-Doo adventure is going to be a little more sci-fi themed. It just shows you enough. Here's the gain back, but it doesn't show you, too much. It makes you a little curious, like, oh, Scooby-Doo's going to meet aliens now?
Mhm.
How's this going to go?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it sets a much different tone because, especially with Shaggy and Scooby, you have them as the comic relief of, the gang, and having almost no character involvement whatsoever in that short of a trailer, it definitely makes you intrigued, and I'm not gonna lie, as a kid, I was a little scared of this trailer as well because it was creepy, it was eerie. But I think that's the point of what they were trying to go for when they made especially a trailer this short. So I think in terms of effectiveness, they did a great job.
Yeah, yeah, like I could definitely see, especially as someone who was a very easily scared kid, how it would scare like a kid watching it, but just still probably intrigue them in the end too.
Yeah, because it's Scooby-Doo. Like you see the gang, and you wonder what kind of adventure they're gonna go on next.
Yeah.
So yeah, it piques the curiosity.
In fall 2000, beware of his presence. The arch enemy is back. He will threaten the city. He's a maniac with awful power. And no one can help. No one except Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker. The first feature-length Batman Beyond movie coming exclusively to video fall 2000. And this time, he's not alone.
So I will say that as someone who wasn't like a huge action cartoon fan as a kid, Batman Beyond was one of the few I did actually watch. I will say if the last trailer showed just enough iconography to get you interested, but not too much to ruin the story. I do kind of wish there was just a little more iconography than just the bat symbol.
Hmm.
Like it does, like even just, I don't know, even just like having the words spell out Batman, it didn't feel quite effective enough. Like until you see that bat symbol, it doesn't even really seem like it's gonna be, you're not even like sure it's gonna be a Batman trailer or if what it's a trailer for.
Hmm.
And then
See,
yeah,
I'm gonna slightly disagree with you there because I think that trailer is sometimes I think simplicity is key. And especially being like a dancer and choreographer, sometimes you don't need all like the flashy tricks, you don't need crazy formations. Sometimes you can just do something super simple and it reads so effectively. And I think what I love about that trailer, especially because, Batman is a bit of a darker superhero um, cartoon, right? It touches on a lot more mature and adult type themes, and the Joker is one hell of a villain. So I think the simplicity of having all of the adjectives or all of the words kind of spell out Batman while you have the Joker's laugh beginning to increase in the background as volume kind of creates the unsettling feeling that you get when you see the Joker and when you see the Batman. So, I mean, while I do agree with you that I wish there, maybe was a little bit more in terms of um, symbolism or icon work, even just being able to see like a cape or maybe the Batmobile, I think having, the intensity of just the Joker's laugh and then ending it with "and he's not alone," it makes you really curious as to what is going to happen in Batman Beyond. So I think personally that's one of my favorite trailers, other than Iron Giant.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's fair. I guess it is just like maybe it just seemed like the laugh was too mild that it wouldn't even like register as the Joker at first.
I think that's kind of the point though, is that it starts as not that maniacal laugh that we know the Joker has, but it's just, it starts as kind of like that beginning of a laugh, the underbelly, so that you hear somebody laughing and you're like, who's laughing here? Like what's so funny? Because you don't really know that it's about the Joker yet, right? Because that
Yeah.
deeper laugh can kind of sound like any of the villains from that. But then once it begins to grow, then you're like, oh my God, like this is about the Joker.
Attention, all Pokemon Spheres. Also featuring It Was You from Ashley Ballard. The Pokemon soundtrack. You gotta get it. In stores now.
Usually I'm like, ugh, another soundtrack promo. I can never have anything to say about these. But there is something interesting to say about this. So I
Mhm.
do remember that Don't Say You Love Me song being like everywhere in 1999, or seemingly everywhere when the movie first came out. But I do find it kind of funny and interesting that they have that they played just two songs, one from a like at least in the States, a one or two hit wonder like M to M, because I know that Mirror Mirror song they did was also like uh everywhere for a bit.
Mirror, mirror, hanging on the wall. You don't have to tell me who's the biggest fool of all.
And then It Was You by Ashley Ballard, which I don't really recognize as much. But then they have like they say they also have Britney Spears and In Sync on the soundtrack. And like, those were actually like and Christina Aguilera.
Mhm.
And they weren't those were like the biggest gets.
Yeah.
Also with Pokemon. You'd think they'd play their songs in the promo ad. And it kind of makes me wonder if there was just some like rights issues that prevented that from happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's usually the case is that, you have all of these major artists and maybe their label signs them to, you know, be a part of the soundtrack. But I think in terms of using it as advertisement, I think that's a whole different set of rights that that the label has to clear. But I also think it's smart in how they did it because, like you said, M2M, you know, had that song and Mirror Mirror, and then Ashley Ballard, they're not as well known, especially at the time where, you bring names like NSYNC, Britney, and Christina into the mix. I think playing their music would have taken away from the other artists and vice versa. So I think, using some of those lesser known artists' songs to advertise would help get them listening to the newer artists, but then showing that you have like NSYNC, Britney, Christina on the record makes it more enticing for a consumer to go buy and be like, oh my God, there's a CD with all of these artists on it. So I think from a marketing standpoint, I can understand it, but I agree with you. I think in terms of like catchiness, if we had heard like Christina's vocalizations, or if we heard NSYNC's harmonies right out the gate with Pokemon, that would have been, an instant um, attention grabber.
Yeah, it definitely would have been an instant attention grabber, for the kids who love these artists and Saint having it being like, oh my God, and with Pokemon too?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, I do wonder if it's for that marketing thing or if it's due to the rights issues or maybe a mix of the two.
Yeah. It probably is a mix of both, So
Yeah, all
the
right.
music industry is really finicky like that. So
This I think is actually smarter because in terms of having WB entice kids with both Pokemon and the other properties because it's like, hey kids, here's Pokemon, here's these other shows you may love. Guess what? We're also behind them too. Like it's
Mhm.
not like the first preview, which didn't have any Pokemon, and you're just kind of thinking, oh, isn't this supposed to be a Pokemon VHS? But this one, I think, kind of does a better job of mixing what's enticing for fans of like all of these cartoons.
Mhm. Agreed. This was one of the coolest trailers I remember as a kid. I remember being like, I want to go into one of those like photo booth WB machines, and like I want to turn into a cartoon because as a kid, seeing that makes it cool to watch cartoons and stuff. And as a kid who got picked on for liking Pokemon when I was younger, and growing up, it was tough to want to be able to, I guess, fully embrace the fact that I really enjoyed Pokemon because, kids loved playing just other games, or they started getting into first person shooter games, or there was like RuneScape, stuff like that. So, you know, as a kid, seeing that with all the other cartoons made it cool, or made us want to be cool to enjoy cartoons. So something like that, I think, is super, super effective in terms of advertising and marketing. And, like you said, showing that, Warner Brother Kids is not just behind Pokemon, but it's behind Animaniacs and Batman Beyond and all of these other cartoons that, you know, could be really cool to watch, and you get in a whole different audience.
Now, you'd think that after these, after the WB logo premiered, that the movie would start. But wait, there's more.
Welcome, Pokemon trainers and fans. Professor Oak here to guide you through this special edition of Pokemon, the first movie. Let's have a look at what's coming up. First up, a great way to start things off, Pikachu's Vacation. You'll get to meet some brand new Pokemon in my favorite mini-movie. Then, get set for our feature presentation, Mewtwo Strikes Back. It begins with exclusive, never-before-seen footage that tells the tale of the origin of Mewtwo. It's quite special, if I do say so myself. Keep watching at the end, and you'll be the very first to see a preview of the next Pokemon movie. This sneak peek has been produced for your eyes only, so now you don't have to be a psychic Pokemon in order to see what's coming up in the future. Isn't that right, Alakazam? That's my cue to say, let's get on with the show!
I will say that it's a bit of a misnomer for Professor Oak to say let's get on with the show because it's like basically two short films before the actual movies. So it's like you kind of got about 10 minutes before the show actually begins.
Yeah. I mean, from what I remember with all of the other Pokemon movies, or I think up to a point at least, is they all had a Pikachu short where, Ash and Misty and Brock or any of the side characters weren't necessarily involved and it was just about the Pokemon. And I think that was a fun way to really like reel the kids in before it got into heavy story time because it was all action-based stuff with just the Pokemon showing that they can kind of act independently. And I think that's smart on Pokemon's behalf by showing that these Pokemon don't need a trainer to, do all these things or go on these really cool adventures. But I will agree with you. It is a little bit misleading, having Oak kind of announce, let's get on with the show, and then go into one or two mini movies. But I mean, I think it's still a great introduction because everybody knows Professor Oak, and while he's not as involved in the anime, um, later on within the first season, like he's still a very present figure and bringing a psychic Pokemon in like Alakazam, who's supposed to be one of the strongest ones, um, and the comic relief of him using his powers to prank Oak. I think it's all a great tie-in to bring it back, and having the Poke Rap music instrumental in the back is also a great way of getting people.
Movie 2000. It came out when I was still into Pokemon, but I think I was just too busy and I never got the chance to see it. And yeah, still not have seen it as of 2026. But that being said, putting again Kid Me into the equation, yeah, I do like how it looks, how it sort of, how the narration just at the end is. Yeah, you thought the stakes were big in the movie you just watched, but now they're about to be even bigger. The editing makes the movie look fun and action-packed. Uh, you notice that Team Rocket seems to have teamed up with Ash and their friends. Are like, oh, what is actually going to make them have to be together? So I can definitely see why this would look like an exciting follow-up, especially for children.
Mhm.
Still have not seen it, so I cannot comment on whether it wasn't a worthy follow-up, though we were talking about before how they put in 2000 as branding on everything.
Mhm.
That was another example.
Yeah.
Pokemon the movie, 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was such a smart play on the title being the second feature film and using, the year 2000 as a way to kind of introduce the second with, the numeration and everything. And I mean, as a fan of the second movie, I think it was really cool because at the beginning of Pokemon the first movie, you got an introduction to a few new Pokemon in Snubbull, Meryl, and Donphan. And you thought you knew all 151, and then you introduce these three new ones that nobody knows anything about really. And then you get into the second movie and it adds in a bunch of the Pokemon from the Johto region, which is the second generation from Gold and Silver, and Lugia, who is one of the mascot legendaries for the second iteration of the franchise. So I think how they did it was great, and especially because the three birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, weren't featured much at all throughout the first season of the anime or in the first movie. Bringing the three of them and kind of tying in their involvement with Lugia's story makes it really enticing to watch, especially following the first movie where, you finally got to see a legendary Pokemon in action, and now all of a sudden there's four involved, and it makes it really exciting without giving away, what else kind of comes within the Johto region, in terms of games or Pokemon being released. So, I mean, the second movie was a lot more, I don't want to say a lot more action packed, because the action was different than the first movie. And seeing, Ash team up with Team Rocket was something really, really cool. And as a kid, you're like, what do you mean these two, like, what do you mean these guys teamed up? Because that doesn't make any sense. But then when you watch the movie, you're like, oh no, 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 this is actually like really cool, really wholesome, and for the betterment, I guess, of, saving the world. And it puts that kind of weight on the movie as well, is, how they end the first and said, the stakes just get even bigger. Oh my God, my hair. Um, so it makes it exciting to watch, and it keeps you on edge, and it keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah, I will say, yeah, completely agree with that. I will say, that speaking of, makes you wonder, about like, what would make them team up with Team Rocket. I guess I will say that one thing I do remember in the first movie is they didn't really team up with Team Rocket, but they did kind of find solidarity for a little bit when they
Yeah.
saw just how harsh Mewtwo was forcing these Pokemon to turn against each other.
Yeah.
Uh, and I do remember one like joke I don't people have made about it is like he makes everyone forget, so like they forgot, so we just watched them learn nothing. Uh
Yeah,
but
that's kind of the comic relief of Team Rocket, right? Like with Jesse James and Meowth, is like they keep going back for more, even though it always ends up being the same thing, the same result.
yeah, uh that's a good point. But yeah, definitely kind of an exciting trailer for like I think one of the last few times a Pokemon movie was on the big screen before they started making them all straight to DVD.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, there's one more ad, and let's see what it is.
To be the ultimate Pokemon Master Trainer!
Yes, I think I am.
Then join the Pokemon Trading Card Game League! You'll do awesome activities, learn wicked strategies, earn killer badges, and meet new friends as you begin your journey to become a Pokemon Master Trainer! To find out more about the Pokemon Trading Card Game League, log on to wizards.com. Go forth and be a master!
I gotta be honest, they probably should have just ended with the Pokemon the movie 2000 trailer. This isn't really something they needed to put on the very end of the VHS. And just as a commercial, admittedly, the kid being given pasted on lips just it creeps me out, and there's too many close-ups. It's like it kind of makes me feel a little claustrophobic rather than, oh, cool, we can be Pokemon masters, personally.
I get that. I definitely agree with you. I think they should have ended the movie with the Pokemon movie 2000 trailer. I think this trailer could have gone before the movie, um, just as like another way of marketing, I guess. All the different variations within the Pokemon franchise. And I mean, I know Wizards of the Coast being the original creators of the, or original like creators, people who, really pushed the card game and did all the artwork, up until about 2004, I believe, was when uh, Wizards stopped making the Pokemon cards. There was a bit of a decline after the first movie, so I mean, I understand their want to push the trading card game more because I mean most people only collected the cards to keep in their collection. Nobody actually played the trading card game. And this was also closer to the time where Yu-Gi-Oh started coming out, and Yu-Gi-Oh was a trading card game that a lot of people, including myself, got into. So I mean, I used to collect Pokemon cards just for the collection, but I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh. So I can see them wanting to kind of push the narrative of learn how to play the trading card game. But I think I agree with you in terms of placement. This should have been not at the end. This should have been at the beginning. And it felt a little underwhelming as an advertisement. Like the announcer had a lot of energy in his voice, but it didn't there was nothing to that ad that made me want to be like, "Oh, I want to learn how to play the game," you know?
Yeah. Well, anyway, now comes the time where we judge on whether or not we want to stay through the previews or skip to the feature. Like many, it was kind of hit and miss. Uh, some trailers I was like, we're gonna really need these. Some like, okay, they know their target demographic. I guess the ones that really do seem to know their target demographic really, really did know their target demographic. So I'll say a mild stay through the previews. Although, but that's pretty much what I'll say. It's stay through the previews because there's enough good stuff in there to balance out the menace.
I agree with you. I think from a nostalgia point of view, and watching these back again, I say 100% stay through the trailers, or sorry, stay through the previews because it is, you know, I would say definitely stay through the previews just to, get an air of that feeling of again being back in the late 90s, early thousands. And I think it adds to the environment and the feeling that you get when you want to watch a movie like this. From a kid's perspective, I would still say, stay through the trailers, kind of like what you said. It's more on the half of, oh, this is exciting, this is intriguing, let me watch this because it opens up, you know, more of more of the world of what Warner Brothers has to offer, not just Pokemon.
Yeah. So anyway, do you have anything to plug?
Um, Follow me on socials. I have my main page on Instagram, which is at underscore Michael Trey. That's where a lot of my dance content is going to be. But if you would like to check out my nerdier side, my Pokemon collecting side, it is at Ace Trainer Hydro. That channel's just kind of recently started up within the last couple months, and I love posting most of my Pokemon content on there. And I'm also on TikTok for any just random shenanigans. That's underscore Michael Trey.
All right. Well, thank you again, Michael, for coming on to the show, and we'll see y'all next time on VHS Era.
It's you and me.